Northern Ireland's Footballing Greats presents Norn Iron's all-time 11s.
Tottenham Hotspur FC.
The 2025 UEFA Europa League was only Spurs' second trophy of the 21st century, though their status as one of England's biggest clubs has seldom been in question. Hotspur Football Club was founded in 1882 by members of the Hotspur Cricket Club, and they took the prefix of Tottenham in 1884 to avoid confusion with another similarly named London-based club. They turned professional in 1895 and joined the Southern League a year later. In 1901 they became the first, and so far, only, non-league club to win the FA Cup and were finally elected to the Football League in 1908. Further firsts came in 1961 when they became the first club to win the league and cup double during the 20th century, and in 1963 they were the first English team to win a major European trophy as they lifted the Cup Winners' Cup. In 1992 they were founder members of the Premier League and are one of only 6 ever-present clubs across the past 34 seasons. In 2017, Spurs' home of the previous 118 years, White Hart Lane was demolished to make way for the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which with a capacity of 62,850 is currently the third largest football ground in England. Spurs have been famous for their international stars, including England's strikers Jimmy Greaves, Gary Lineker and Harry Kane, Wales' Gareth Bale, the Republic of Ireland's Robbie Keane, Argentina's Ossie Ardiles and Ricky Villa, Germany's Jürgen Klinsmann, France's Hugo Lloris, and South Korea's Son Heung-min. 10 players have been awarded full caps by the Irish FA while active Spurs players, the first being Jack Kieran and the most recent, Jamie Donnelly. So, who were the men from Northern Ireland that shaped the history of the Lily Whites? Manager, Terry Neal, 1974 to 1976. We start with one of the most controversial managerial appointments in Spurs history. When double-winning manager Bill Nicholson decided to resign in September 1974, he had wanted his former captain, Danny Blanchflower, more on him later, to be his replacement. The board disagreed, instead appointing Neal, who had been captain of arch North London rivals, Arsenal. Neal just about kept Spurs in the First Division in 74-75, and although they finished mid-table the following season, he was never likely to win over the White Hart Lane faithful, and he left to return home as Arsenal boss. Goalkeeper, Pat Jennings, 1964 to 1977 and 1985 to 1986. When Jennings arrived at White Hart Lane for a £27,000 fee in 1964, he had the unenviable task of replacing double-winning keeper, Bill Brown. Across the next 13 years he beyond proved himself. An FA Cup, 2 League Cups and a UEFA Cup. PFA and FWA Player of the Year awards recognized his coolness between the posts, his physical stature, his agility and unorthodox techniques, and his 1967 Charity Shield goal saw him widely regarded as among the greatest goalkeepers of all time. Although he had been the man between the sticks when Spurs were relegated in 1977, it was a huge shock that he was made available. A further shock was his destination, Arsenal. There was no long-term ill will, as in 1985, he returned to White Hart Lane to play reserve team football ahead of the 1986 World Cup, and he added one more appearance, taking his Spurs total to 596 across all competitions. He then served as a Spurs coach and matchday host for over 3 decades. Goalkeeper, Matt Riley, 1906 to 1907. Dublin-born Ginger Riley had only played Gaelic football before joining the Army. He represented the Army as a goalkeeper, played in the Amateur Cup final for Royal Artillery. He entered the professional game with Portsmouth in 1899 and earned 2 Ireland caps. He served Dundee and Notts County before arriving at White Hart Lane in 1906 for £100. He spent a season in the Southern League with Spurs before making his way back to Dublin to play for Shelbourne. Wing half, Danny Blanchflower, 1954 to 1964. A brain, or if you were a footballing administrator, a mouth, in football boots, Danny Blanchflower spent his playing days annoying administrators and inspiring his teams to undreamt-of glories. On arriving at Spurs in 1954 for £30,000, a record fee for a wing half, Blanchflower was appointed captain. Things, however, weren't plain sailing, and he was stripped of the captaincy in 1956 after falling out with manager Jimmy Anderson over tactical responsibilities. His form certainly didn't suffer though, as he was named Footballer of the Year in 1958, the same year he skippered Northern Ireland to the World Cup quarter-finals. New Spurs boss Bill Nicholson persuaded Danny to retake the club captaincy again, as the pair set about plotting a route to the elusive double, a feat realised in 1961 as Blanche Flower was crowned FWA Player of the Year for a second time. He lifted the FA Cup again in 1962 and the Cup Winners' Cup in 1963. He retired in 1964 and became a respected journalist. In 1974 Blanche Flower missed out on the Spurs manager job, but he did have spells in charge of Northern Ireland and Chelsea. In 1990 Spurs hosted Northern Ireland for Blanche Flower's retirement benefit. Midfielder, Stephen Robinson, 1993 to 1994. When Stephen Robinson arrived at Spurs as a trainee in 1991, he was already injured. He damaged his back playing for Linfield and was unable to even kick a ball for a full year. Although that was an obvious setback, he did eventually prove his fitness and ability and signed pro forms in January 1993, shortly after his 18th birthday. In October 1993 he made his Premier League debut, starting in a 1-0 defeat by Blackburn, and he made his second appearance in a 1-1 draw with QPR the following month. By the end of the season he had collected Northern Ireland under-21 and B caps, but made no further Spurs appearances and was allowed to join Bournemouth in October 1994. He spent over a decade playing as a creative midfielder in the lower leagues before moving into management. Winger, Chris McGrath, 1973 to 1976. Flying winger Chris McGrath signed for Spurs as an apprentice in January 1972 and made his debut in a 2-0 win over Arsenal in October 1973. He came off the bench to score his first goals in a UFR Cup match against Aberdeen, and it was in that competition he enjoyed his best form, scoring 5 times in the run to that season's final. The second leg of the final was marred by crowd violence as Spurs lost out to Feyenoord. Second season syndrome struck hard and McGrath's form was inconsistent, but then so too was the form of the rest of the squad, as the team narrowly avoided relegation in 1975. After a loan spell at Millwall, McGrath moved to Manchester United where he never really hit his stride either. Winger, Noel Brotherson, 1975 to 1977. A tricky winger from Dundonald, Noel Brotherson impressed in schoolboy football before joining Spurs as a 15-year-old in 1972. He was a key part of the team that won the FA Youth Cup in 1974, defeating Huddersfield Town in the final. He made his first team debut in March 1976 against Aston Villa, and although Spurs ran out 5-2 winners, Brotherson was disappointed with his performance. Terry Neal didn't give the youngster a second chance and he was released in 1977. He joined Blackburn where he impressed across a decade and was a key part of Billy Bingham's successful Northern Ireland team of the early 1980s. Arsenal and England fullback Kenny Sansom described Brotherson as his most difficult opponent. He became a painter and decorator but died in 1995 at the tragically young age of 38. Winger, Jerry McMahon, 1994 to 1996. Another flying winger, Jerry McMahon was scouted by Terry Venables while playing for Glenavon, and a transfer was agreed even before the 1992 Irish Cup final where he scored the winning goal in a 2-1 win over Linfield. He initially struggled to make an impact at White Hart Lane, not helped by a managerial merry-go-round and boardroom instability that saw Venables depart the club acrimoniously. He was finally awarded his first team debut by Jerry Francis in May 1995 and established himself in the first team squad the following season. In the face of strong competition for places, McMahon accepted a move to Stoke City in September 1996. He then played for St Johnstone before rejoining Glenavon and working as a postman. Outside left, Jack Kieran, 1899 to 1905. In 1894 the teenage Jack Kieran was a member of the Dublin Gaelic football team that were awarded the All-Ireland Championship. He then moved to Merseyside, ending up signing for Everton in 1898 and a year later he joined Spurs, then still playing in the Southern League. He was described as having the speed of a cheetah, and he scored 17 times from the left wing as Spurs claimed the Southern League title for the first time in 1900, the same year as he became the club's first international, as he was selected for Ireland's match against Wales. The following season he starred in Spurs' run to the FA Cup, his performance in the 4-0 semi-final win over West Brom earning particular plaudits. A replay win over Sheffield United in the final saw Tottenham become the only non-league club to ever win the cup, and Kieran the first player to claim a Gaelic All-Ireland title and the English Cup. In 1902 he scored in Spurs' 5-2 Sheriff of London Shield win over Corinthians. Kieran left White Hart Lane in 1905 for Chelsea and later managed Ajax. He held on to the match ball from the 1901 FA Cup final until the day he died in 1959. Inside forward, Charlie O'Hagan, 1904 to 1906. A dainty Donegal man, Charlie O'Hagan honed his skills as a creative midfield player in Londonderry. He moved to Merseyside in 1902 to work for a fruit merchant and ended up signing for Everton. O'Hagan never played for the Toffees, but jumped at the chance to sign for Spurs, then playing in the Southern League, in 1904. A born entertainer, O'Hagan won his first 5 Ireland caps while at White Hart Lane. He moved on to Middlesbrough in 1906 and his career took him to Aberdeen, Morton and 3rd Lanark. He served in France during the Great War, then managed Norwich and Sevilla before becoming a journalist. Forward, Paul McVeigh, 1996 to 2000. When the diminutive Paul McVeigh arrived at Spurs in 1994, he found himself surrounded by international stars, Jurgen Klinsmann, Teddy Sheringham, Nick Barmby, Darren Anderton, and felt that he was never going to make it amongst such illustrious talent. He broke into the first team towards the end of the 1996-97 season, making his debut up front in a 1-1 draw away to Aston Villa. In the final game of the season he scored his first goal, a consolation in a 2-1 home defeat by Coventry City. He disappeared back into the reserves, but was a regular for Northern Ireland's under-21 team and made his senior debut April 1999, almost 2 years since he last played for Spurs. In March 2000 he moved to Norwich City, helping them to promotion to the Premier League in 2004. With his playing days over, McVeigh applied the skills he learned from his football career to business, working as a performance psychologist. Forward in midfielder, Jamie Donnelly, 2023 to date. Born in Antrim, but raised in Colchester, Donnelly represented England and Northern Ireland at youth level before committing to the country of his birth in 2025. He has been on the books at Spurs since the age of 8, signing professional in January 2022 shortly after his 17th birthday. In December 2023 he came off the bench in injury time to make his first team debut in a 3-3 draw with Manchester City and made a further 3 substitute appearances over the next few months. He has since been farmed out on loan, playing the 2024-25 season with Leyton Orient, where his impressive creative play earned him multiple awards and plaudits. For 2025-26 he joined Stoke City on another temporary deal. Centre forward, Dick Rowley, 1930 to 1931. In modern parlance, Dick Rowley might be described as an army brat, being born when his father was stationed in Enniskillen and spending his childhood in barracks across the kingdom. He excelled at cricket, golf, tennis and athletics before concentrating on football, initially as an amateur with Swindon, London Casuals and Southampton before a big-money £3,750 move to Spurs in February 1930. Although he scored a hat-trick in his second appearance, a 4-2 win over Wolves, he struggled to retain a regular first-team spot over the next 2 seasons, and he joined Preston in 1931 as they sought the firepower needed to gain promotion from the second division. Promotion was claimed in 1934, the same year that Rowley retired from the game. He then served in the RAF and was awarded the DCM. Forward, Jerry Armstrong, 1975 to 1980. When Terry Neal went back to his old club Bangor to look at Jerry Armstrong, he saw a strong, athletic but extremely raw centre-forward, but was happy to offer £25,000 for his signature in November 1975. Armstrong's comparative lack of craft could be attributed to him having only played Gaelic football through to his late teens, only coming to soccer during a suspension for fighting. After a year in the reserves, he was promoted to the first team in August 1976, but his return of just 3 goals was symbolic of an abject relegation campaign. In the second division, Keith Birkinshaw would put Armstrong's strength to good use as he played as many games in defence as up front as an immediate return to the top flight was secured. He remained a useful squad player through to November 1980 when he accepted a £250,000 move to Watford. His club career never hit the heights of his international performances, and he will be long remembered for his goals at the España '82 World Cup. Since retiring, he has worked in coaching and punditry. Forward, Phil Gray, 1986 to 1991. Phil Gray was playing men's football from his mid-teens with Ballyclare Comrades in the Irish League B division. He signed professionally with Spurs at 18 in 1986. He didn't have long to wait for his first-team debut, starting in the final league game of the 86-87 season in a 1-0 defeat at champions Everton as David Pleat rested 10 of his first team ahead of the FA Cup final. Thereafter, his path to a regular first-team spot was blocked by a succession of big-name strikers: Clive Allen, Paul Walsh, Gary Lineker, Paul Stewart, Gordon Dury, and Gray played just 10 games across his 4 professional seasons at White Hart Lane. In August 1991, Gray jumped at the chance of teaming up with Pleat again, signing for Luton Town for £275,000. He enjoyed a long career in the English game, plus spells in France and the Netherlands. Over the past few decades, Spurs youth teams have regularly featured players from Northern Ireland. These have included: Kieran Toner arrived at Spurs Academy in 1997 as a 16-year-old, signing as a professional in 2000. He never played a first-team game, but was called into the Northern Ireland squad by Sammy McIlroy in March 2002. He had to wait until his transfer to Leyton Orient to earn his only 2 caps. A versatile midfielder or fullback, Mark Hughes earned under-21 and under-23 caps while with Spurs from 2001 to 2005. A year after he left White Hart Lane for a nominal fee to join Oldham, he won 2 caps as part of an inexperienced Northern Ireland team that toured the USA. He then drifted round the lower leagues for over a decade. Cian McKenna captained Northern Ireland at the 2005 Under-19 Championship and won 7 Under-21 caps while with Spurs, but retired at the age of 22 due to injury. He became an academy coach at Spurs. He then coached Manchester United's youth and first teams before taking charge at Ipswich and leading them to the Premier League in 2024. Richie Johnston won an under-23 cap in 1989 while at Spurs but never played in the first team before enjoying success with Linfield in the 90s. Aaron McInnes scored the winning goal for Northern Ireland in the 2014 Milk Cup final whilst a Spurs player. Later, while at Shamrock Rovers, he was called into the senior Republic of Ireland squad, but never received a full cap. Dominic Ball represented Northern Ireland at every age group level up to under-21 before electing to represent England, the country of his birth. He has had a long career in English and Scottish football, but was never capped beyond under-20 level by England. Given Spurs' long-held reputation as an attacking side, it seems only fitting that their all-time Northern Ireland 11 doesn't contain a single proper defender. Pat Jennings is an easy choice in goals. Danny Blanchflower is deployed a bit deeper than his usual role and partners Jerry Armstrong in the defensive role he played on occasion. An attacking midfield trio of Charlie O'Hagan, Jack Kieran and Jamie Donnelly. Jerry McMahon and Chris McGrath take their usual positions on the wing. Paul McVeigh plays in the hole in support of a front two of Dick Rowley and Phil Gray.
Thank you for watching. Please visit the website at nifootball.blogspot.com, follow on X at JCDNIFG, and don't forget to like and share this video here on YouTube. Your comments are very welcome. It would be great to hear your feedback and suggestions for future videos. Please do keep your comments respectful and look out for a new video soon.